Hello, welcome back. Now we're going to be looking at another A-star exemplar piece from AQA, and this time the piece is going to be for question 6. Question 6 is the one worth the most marks on the paper. It's just under a third of the marks for the whole thing, so it's well worth doing very well, as this student here has done. So what we're going to be looking at is the response of the AQA, again with the kindly added examiner's annotations on them, and then we're going to be looking at where this person's actually picked up marks from the communication, organization of ideas, and the skills that we mentioned we went through in previous videos. And I'm going to be referring to my basic outline of how you want to go through this. Okay, remember, you isolate your point of view, you build it, back it up, acknowledge and neutralize opposing view, and then aim higher, and hopefully that will come across quite heavily in this response that we're about to read. So great. Question was, your school or college is inviting entries for a writing competition. The topic is dangerous sports activities and pastimes are selfish, often put others at risk, and should be discouraged. Write your entry arguing for or against this view. Extreme sports is a definition for a decidedly dangerous, fast-paced sport with the extremities of this activity heightened to provide maximum enjoyment. So straight away we're building up. In an extreme sport, people jump off cliffs, down cliffs, out of airplanes, or without a bungee rope attached, all with or without a bungee rope attached, all voluntarily. Why? To experience something, to feel adrenaline pumping around their body, or to feel weightless and powerful. So afterwards they can try and fail to describe how brilliant it was. So what's clever in this build up is it's taken its time and it's paced it out nicely. So very kind of factual start, allowing us to absorb in and almost agree. Here a little bit of humor, with or without a rope, and then why. And then here we get to the actual final, the actual isolating point. This person's obviously going to say that it's good. So what we've got here is engaged. So obviously the words here provide maximum enjoyment. It's engaging. The why here is rhetorical, inviting us to just think about it before we actually get an answer. And then this description here, so afterwards they can try and fail to describe how brilliant it was. So that's emphasizing that the feeling you get from doing such things is beyond words. So that's a really well controlled sentence. So we've seen it here, it's been built up, again isolated and then built up. We haven't gone into the majority of the argument where all this is going to happen, but it's going to come soon. We've got clarity of thought, it's really well structured, the whole text is well organized so far as we've built up. We've got a variety of sentence lengths that we've actually seen here, good punctuation with the dash and the punctuation with the exclamation mark as well, which is actually referenced here, and then this sentence here is really originally put, so it's very persuasive as well. So far so very good. Yes, it is dangerous, so we're going to look, just as mentioned here, acknowledge the opposing view. Yes, it is dangerous and sometimes people can get hurt, but if, in the words of Cheryl Cole, it's worth having, it's worth fighting for. So I presume that's a lyric from a song or something that she very famously said, and it engages the audience. It is a quotation from someone else, so it is actually dealing with structure in a slightly different way, and it's it's clever because obviously it's tying into a popular cultural icon, and it engages the audience. Taking risk is half the whole experience of the event. So obviously here that's good because we're, and again, deriving things from that quotation. Feeling like your life is in someone else's hands or that your body is at the mercy of nature. This completes the memory of it all. So we've got more than just the actual event that's happening. You've tied it in, this person's actually tied it into the abstract idea. Now that's not straight away, the first time you read it, it doesn't sound like it's brilliantly linked, but the way that's actually developed from neutralizing the idea, then giving us a cultural reference to actually tie it to, and with the quotation from it, and then taking the risk being the whole experience, and then developing it into this abstract idea of the memory, the thing that lasts with you, and that's kind of cross-referencing what they said earlier about trying to describe it but failing. So it's very well kind of put and tied in. Admittedly, that is why extreme sport. Admittedly, that is why it is extreme sport. But it's absurd that it's dangerous to the people around you. It's your choice whether you want to do it, your choice whether you want to jump, your choice. Great repetition there, really emphasizing it. Your choice completely, no one else's. If you want to do it, don't hide away for the rest of your life saying I'll do it tomorrow. Opportunities are given to you for a reason. So that's very strongly worded. It's almost self-help encouragement there. I can imagine Anthony Robbins saying something like that. That's very, very powerful. So you've got the point of view saying it's your choice, putting onto the second person individually, everyone reading it. We've got the persuasive element here. There's don't hide away. So, it's a command, it's direct, and it's imperative. I'll do it tomorrow. And then the dash just kind of gives us the change of tone. Opportunities are given to you for a reason. Very final, very strong. This person will have a great career in advertising. Extreme sports can keep you in an extremely healthy state as well by pushing your body to the limits. Again, so just to revert back to here, because I lost track a little earlier, we've isolated the view, we've built up, we've backed it up, and again, acknowledging the opposing views actually started with, so this one, admittedly, that's what they are extreme, and with the previous paragraph we said yes, it is dangerous, but then we've neutralized it straight away. So you can see that idea of what I've actually said to you there coming through, and it's been backed up with the quotation from earlier, and also yes, we're going to probably come to some more in a second, and here it's actually backed up with this really kind of persuasive piece rather than actual factual things. So let's see if more is coming. Extreme sports can keep you in an extremely healthy state as well by pushing your body to the limits. You can gain muscles you never thought were there. So again, very sales pitch, very persuasive in this. This entry was for arguing, but obviously we've gone for a slightly more persuasive feel. Of course, you have to train to a certain extent for most or all extreme sports, but that is not expected, of course. Also, so that's not brilliant, the repetition, of course, there as well, unless if this was a speech, that would probably be a little more fitting because it's a natural phrase they would actually use. Also, you needed a good dose of common sense. So we've got the cliche of the good dose and a drive to do it relatively in equal amounts, most people think. Read that again. Of course, you have to train to a certain extent for most or all extreme sports, but that is not unexpected, of course. All you'll need a good dose of common sense and a drive to do it relatively in equal amounts, most people think. That's not the greatest wording throughout that, but what's come before has been very powerful, and it just sounds like the student in writing this has kind of got kind of carried away in the power of what they're looking at. I wouldn't take away any marks from that because what's come before it is very strong, and then obviously we're developing there. So here we've got statistic use. 70% of the people that take part in extreme sports are likely to live longer. 70% repetition and emphasis. Does anyone not want to do extreme sports now? So again, referencing the audience, and the stats are used twice and repeated, so it's quite powerful. If you take all these points into consideration, the fact that some people vehemently discourage, well used word, discourages activities from taking place seems almost stupid. Very strong and well developed. So it's actually summarizing the points. So they've made 3 or 4 points overall, and now they're actually coming towards, I presume, their ending. Discourages activities. Obviously, family or friends might have the right to be worried for your safety. That's really good. Very considered, and again showing the opposing view, but even they don't have the right to choose what you do and don't do, taking into account that nearly all extreme sports do not permit people under 18. So if you're under 18, I'm not talking about you, unfortunately. So yeah, here the examiner's actually comment that's developed and balanced and manipulates. That's true. Talks to people, gives them both points, and well used brackets as well, actually putting that in as a side point, and again just kind of highlighting the safety without banging on about it. Very good again. The origin of the term extreme sport was first used by Ben Richardson, an adrenaline junkie in his late 20s who jumped off a cliff without a parachute into the sea below. This radical action started the revolution that drove sport as a culture to find new ways to reach new goals. That paragraph alone is worth being up there with the A-star stuff, simply because it's very mature, and obviously this, I presume, would have come from the material that came with the exam. But this one here, it's, you know, it's tied into such a big idea, and it's so open-minded, and it's so refreshing. So I really would have taken that. Again, if it's referenced from if you did the paper and you know it's referenced from, or you have the paper and you know it's referenced from the actual source material, then that's a shame. But it doesn't seem so, because the examiner seems to have given it a lot of marks, so they would have known. Ben Richardson was quoted in so many ways, so many newspapers. There was enough to create a 500-page book. So great example of hyperbole. And if this is made up, then that's great, you know, using making up an experience to actually get the emphasis of the emphasis of the whole thing across. Take your life as if your own. It was given to you for a reason. Lovely quotation. Brilliant. So that is the lovely quotation to end with. So it is very, very powerful. If we look over it again, writes in a way it shows clarity of thought, definitely all the way through. There's just that one muddled paragraph. Engages the reader with details, succinct arguments, and a range of variety of persuasive ideas, definitely. Makes and sustains the purpose, yep, definitely. Writes in a formal way. Sometimes it was kind of more preacher-led than formal, but what do we mean there by formal and informal? It's probably more to do with the range of ideas. It's still, and the overall sophistication of it. The overall sophistication is definitely a lot more formal than informal. Shows control of extensive vocabulary, and writes a whole text in continuous everything is done here. So that's why it's got 23 out of the possible 24, so it's near on perfect. So the examiner hasn't taken away any marks for a couple of the spelling mistakes, missing words, etc., because that's it's just a slight oversight, not major. It didn't really stop our understanding all the way through. It was just once or twice, but it'd be quite harsh to penalize such a good and direct piece as that. So if you look through what I put for you, just as to remember, this is going to be on your final notes as well. Whatever you're doing, you remember, isolate your view, build it, back it up, acknowledge and neutralize, and then do it 3 or 4 times, and then try and tie into higher ideas.